The lovable uncle had his multi-million-dollar childhood fortune stolen by his own parents before he ever reached adulthood. The towering butler died at just 46 years old following a routine surgery. And the boy who played Pugsley walked off the set at 11 and spent 4 decades pulling electrical cable on Hollywood sets. This is what really happened to the cast of the Addams Family. Carolyn Jones came from Amarillo, Texas, a detail that lands differently once you've watched her glide across a set, as if she had personally canceled gravity. She was 34 years old when Morticia Addams premiered in September 1964. What most viewers never knew is that 7 years before the Addams Family, Carolyn had received an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress for The Bachelor Party. That nomination placed her among the most respected dramatic actresses of her era, not a woman in a black wig on a sitcom set. Her personal life carries one detail that stops every conversation cold. From 1953 to 1964, Carolyn Jones was married to Aaron Spelling, the same Aaron Spelling who would go on to produce Dynasty, Beverly Hills 90210, and Melrose Place. They divorced the exact year the show premiered. She stepped into the role that would define her public image, the same season she ended a marriage to the man who would become television's most powerful producer. She married twice more, to musical director Herbert Green and later to Peter Bailey Britton. By the late 1970s, she had been diagnosed with colon cancer. She kept working through it, attending retrospective events and giving interviews while the illness progressed quietly behind every public appearance. Carolyn Jones died on August 3, 1983, at 53 years old. Morticia Addams was elegance weaponized. The woman underneath deserved a far longer story. But the man playing opposite her had been quietly rewriting his own story since long before the cameras rolled. John Astin was 34 years old when Gomez Addams debuted in 1964, performing operatic passion for a character who loved his wife with an enthusiasm American sitcoms had never quite seen before and rarely replicated since. What most people never connected to the Gomez years, Astin held serious theater credentials and later taught stage performance for decades at Johns Hopkins University. The man playing television's most gleefully unhinged patriarch was, off-camera, a university professor. In 1972, he married actress Patty Duke, who had her own complex history with fame, diagnosis, and the industry's particular cruelty toward young women. Astin legally adopted her son Sean, the same Sean Astin who would carry the One Ring across the screen in Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy. Gomez Addams is the legal father of Samwise Gamgee. He and Duke divorced in 1985. He later married Valerie Ann Sandoval in 1989 and continued taking character roles, Night Court, the Addams Family reunion films, while maintaining his academic work. In 2026, John Astin is 96 years old and the last surviving principal cast member of the original series. He played a man who conducted invisible orchestras and fenced in the drawing room before breakfast. The real version spent 6 decades teaching other people how to do what he made look effortless. But the actor who arrived as Uncle Fester had a history with Hollywood that predated everyone else by decades, and the industry had taken far more from him than he ever got back. Jackie Coogan shaved his head and painted his face chalk white for Uncle Fester. He was 49 years old when the Addams Family premiered in 1964. What the role never announced was who he had been before it. In 1921, a 7-year-old boy appeared alongside Charlie Chaplin in The Kid and became cinema's first major child star. Coogan earned what today would be tens of millions of dollars while still in grade school. By the time he turned 21, the money was almost entirely gone, spent by his mother and stepfather on furs, cars, and a life Coogan had funded and never touched. He sued in 1938. California courts confirmed there was essentially nothing left. That lawsuit produced the California Child Actor Bill, known permanently as the Coogan Law, passed in 1939 and still protecting child actors' earnings today. His name is written into the statute of a state he went broke, trying to hold accountable. He had also served as a military glider pilot in Burma during World War II, a fact that sat entirely at odds with the bald, rubbery figure audiences associated with Fester. Jackie Coogan died on March 1, 1984, at 69 years old, of heart failure. The law bearing his name has protected child actors for over 80 years. He lived long enough to watch it work for other people's children. The man beside him on that set carried his own private weight, 6 feet 9 inches of it, and a story the audience never saw coming. Ted Cassidy was 32 years old when he first stood in the Addams family doorway, looked down at a world that had always been smaller than he was, and asked, in a voice like a pipe organ playing a funeral, "You Ray?" He stood 6 feet 9 inches tall, a result of acromegaly, a condition caused by excess growth hormone that also shaped his hands, jaw, and the bones of his face. Before acting, he worked as a radio announcer in Dallas, a voice that commanded rooms before anyone saw the body attached to it. What audiences never knew, Cassidy was also playing Thing in those same episodes, the disembodied hand that emerged from a box to assist the family. He spent each production day performing 2 roles, one requiring his entire frame, one requiring only his right arm, operated from below the set through a precisely cut hole in the floor. After the Addams Family, he continued working steadily. His voice never lost what made Lurch unforgettable. In 1979, he underwent open-heart surgery to remove a benign tumor. Complications followed, and he died on January 16, 1979, at just 46 years old. He spent his career playing the figure at the edge of rooms, the one everyone noticed but no one fully saw. Lisa Loring was 6 years old when she played Wednesday Addams, braids, pale face, the flat affect of a child who experienced joy as a personal inconvenience. At 6 years old, she wasn't performing the character, she simply was her, which is the only way very young actors can work, and occasionally the most effective way of all. Born February 16, 1958, she was cast with no formal training. She created the walk, the stillness, the precise tilt of Wednesday's head entirely without coaching. What audiences took as performance was largely instinct doing the work of craft. She left the show at 8 when it wrapped. What followed was the pattern the industry reliably produces: scattered credits through the 1970s, a recurring role on As the World Turns in the 1980s as Cricket Montgomery, and years of personal difficulty she later discussed with unusual candor. She married 4 times, had 2 daughters, Vanessa and Marianne, and spoke openly in later interviews about long years of addiction. Lisa Loring died on January 28, 2023, at 65 years old from a stroke. Her family connected it directly to heavy, long-term smoking. She built an image that Tim Burton inherited 40 years later and received limited credit for what she originated. The boy who played her brother walked away from the industry with even less and found a different kind of peace through something nobody watching could have predicted. Ken Weatherwax was 9 years old when Pugsley Addams arrived on American television, the round-faced, cheerful boy who took delight in being tortured by his sister and somehow made that the most wholesome dynamic on the screen. His uncle was Rudd Weatherwax, the man who trained Lassie across 5 decades of film and television, which meant Ken grew up around Hollywood sets as naturally as other children grew up around schoolyards. The show ended in 1966 when Ken was 11. What followed was not the child star wreckage story the era produced so reliably. It was something quieter and, in its own way, more honest. Ken stepped away. He left performing and moved into the technical side of the industry, working for decades as an electrician and lighting technician on Hollywood sets. He pulled cable alongside people far less famous than he had once been. By all accounts, he didn't find this humiliating. He found it steady. He returned for Addams Family fan conventions in his later years, and those who met him consistently described the same quality. No bitterness, no performance. Just someone who had been part of something people still cared about, and who was quietly glad for that. Ken Weatherwax died on December 7, 2014, at 59 years old, from a heart attack. He played the overlooked child. The life that followed required no audience. The woman who played his grandmother brought 60 years of American show business to that set and still had to perform in someone else's shadow. Blossom Rock was 69 years old when she joined the Addams Family as Grandmama, cackling over cauldrons and dispensing witch wisdom with cheerful malice. What the role never advertised, she was the older sister of Jeanette MacDonald. That name requires a moment. Jeanette MacDonald was the reigning soprano of MGM's golden era, the woman who sang alongside Nelson Eddy in Rosemarie and Naughty Marietta, and became one of the defining female stars of the 1930s. Jeanette was one of the biggest stars in the world when the studio system was at its peak, and Blossom was her sister. Born August 21, 1895, as Marie Blake, she had worked in vaudeville and taken small parts in film and television across decades. She was talented in her own right, but when you share a last name with a legend, every role reads in comparison to that. She played Grandmama throughout the original two-season, 64-episode run. After the series ended, in December 1967, she suffered a stroke that permanently affected her speech and effectively ended her ability to work. It also prevented her from reprising the role in the 1977 reunion film, Halloween with the New Addams Family. Blossom Rock died on January 14, 1978, at 82 years old. Felix Silla never showed his face as Cousin It. He wore a full-body wig from the crown of his head to the floor, spoke lines that were replaced entirely in post-production by a different voice, and delivered a performance audiences recognized instantly while being unable to identify a single physical detail about him. He was born January 11, 1937, in Rome, Italy, the son of a circus family. Before acting, he was a circus acrobat, performing at altitudes and angles that required complete command of a body most people underestimate. He stood under 4 feet tall, which the entertainment industry treated as a specialty rather than a qualification, and cast him accordingly. After the Addams Family, Silla's physical precision made him one of the more consistently employed performers in genre entertainment across 4 decades. He played Twiki, the robot companion, voiced by Mel Blanc, in Buck Rogers in the 25th century. He appeared as one of the Ewok performers in Return of the Jedi in 1983. He was the body inside costumes the camera needed to animate, and he animated them with the disciplined ease of someone who had been performing since childhood. He gave more than 40 years to an industry that rarely attached his name to what he made work. Felix Silla died on April 16, 2021, at 84 years old. He was the most recognized presence on the Addams Family that nobody ever actually saw. There is something very Addams Family about that. The Addams Family ran only 2 seasons and 64 episodes, but time made that black and white house feel less like a joke and more like a refuge for anyone who never fit the normal room.